Chosen one, June 16th will seal your fate. You will never be the same again. You are not reading this by accident. There are no coincidences in the life of the chosen, only divine appointments cloaked in moments that seem ordinary. June 16th is not just a date marked by the turning of a page on the calendar. It is a line in the spirit that divides who you were from who you are becoming. Everything you've experienced, every rejection, delay, disappointment, and silent prayer, has been leading you to this appointed hour. The world may see it as just another day, but heaven knows it as the moment your fate is sealed. What has been forming in the invisible is about to break into your visible world. You may not feel ready, but readiness was never a matter of how you feel. It was always a matter of who you are becoming. You have shifted inwardly, and now the outer must obey. This is the moment where the story changes, not because you worked harder, but because you finally became aligned with the truth of who you were called to be. Something is rising within you, an awareness, a fire, a knowing, and June 16th will reveal it. From this day forward, you will not move like the version of yourself that used to question your worth. You will not walk in circles trying to earn a place you were born for. This is the awakening, the fulfillment, the divine yes. You are being sealed, not for more struggle, but for glory. Get ready. This day will mark you. You will never be the same again. The unseen preparations before destiny unfolds before the shift of June 16th enters the realm of the visible. There is an invisible groundwork that must be honored, the sacred space where the chosen one is formed in secret. You see, what you are about to walk into is not sudden. It feels sudden only because the world couldn't see what was happening inside you. People around you may think you are lucky, or that breakthrough just fell into your lap, but you and heaven both know the truth. It was crafted in silence. The long nights of questioning, the tears you wept without anyone knowing, the quiet surrender when you let go of control and said, "Let your will be done," these were the materials of your preparation. Nothing was wasted. Every delay was designed. Every detour held purpose. Your waiting was not punishment. It was prophecy being incubated. You were being shaped, not stalled. And all along, the universe was aligning circumstances, people, timing, and positioning just to match the version of you that would be able to carry the weight of this next level. You cannot receive what you are not yet able to sustain, so God allowed some things to die in your hands, not because you weren't worthy, but because He was making room for something greater that demanded a stronger version of you. In this season, you were stretched, you were emptied, you were called to walk in darkness with only faith to light your steps, but it was in this place of emptiness that you became dangerous to the enemy. Because when a chosen one stops relying on outward appearances and starts trusting the inner words spoken to their spirit, they become unstoppable. You were not being punished, you were being purified. Stripped of false identities, released from shallow attachments, you thought it was loss, but it was liberation. Every person who walked away, every closed door, every no, was actually an act of mercy, for it protected you from becoming someone less than who you were created to be. The transformation was internal before it could ever be external. You began to see through spiritual eyes, no longer reacting to appearances, but responding to divine impressions. You started to imagine greater, not because life got easier, but because your spirit grew bolder. You learned to walk by faith, not fantasy. Faith sees the unseen and knows it to be more real than what the five senses perceive. This is the power that was being cultivated within you, an unshakable inner knowing that says, "I am called, I am chosen, I am destined." And now, on the cusp of June 16th, you can feel it. A divine pressure, a holy unrest. Something is shifting. You are not who you were even a few weeks ago. Your mind is sharper, your prayers are clearer, your spirit is more sensitive, and your discernment more accurate. This is the evidence that the inner work is nearing completion. The womb of waiting is about to give birth to the reality you've carried in vision for so long, and when it manifests, it will look like it happened overnight. But the chosen know nothing real happens overnight. It happens in the deep places of surrender, in the stillness of becoming, in the discipline of holding to a vision that no one else can see. This is the realm where fate is sealed, where your future is written not by external circumstances, but by the persistent assumption of your divine identity. You rehearsed your future in your imagination, and now it must come. Heaven is bound to fulfill the image you have persistently held. You thought you were waiting on God, but it was God who was waiting on you, to become it, to believe it, to embody it. Now that you have, the world must comply. And that is why June 16th is the moment everything changes. The timing has ripened, the gate is opening. The version of you who could not handle it no longer exists. The inner man has grown into alignment with the promise. The vibration you hold now is magnetic. It pulls the fulfillment to you. You don't have to chase it. You simply have to stand in it, knowing that what belongs to you cannot pass you. This is not the season of begging. This is the season of claiming. You are not entering a new level by force, but by identity. You've crossed over in the spirit, and now the natural must follow. But hear this, not everyone will understand the transformation. Some will question your rise, others will resent your glow, but this change is not for them. It was never about proving yourself to anyone. It was about obeying the call that whispered through the trials and echoed in the silence. You were born for more. And now that more is about to be revealed, don't second-guess it. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't delay your own entrance by trying to explain a process only heaven witnessed. This is your time. The ceiling is spiritual before it is visible. June 16th marks the moment where what was internal becomes external. The life you envisioned in faith will now emerge in fact, and when it does, remember, it was not luck, it was law. You became it, and therefore you attracted it. You imagined it, and therefore it had to come. You aligned with it, and therefore it had no choice but to appear. This is how destiny works. This is how fate is sealed. This is the power of the chosen. The moment heaven confirms earth's agreement June 16th will not just be another day. It will be a divine confirmation of everything you've agreed with in the secret chambers of your mind. You must understand, heaven always waits for earth to agree, and you, chosen one, have been brought through a divine process of redefinition so that your agreement with God would no longer be based on fear or religion, but on alignment with truth. Fate is not decided by chance, it is shaped by conscious agreement. What you consistently believe, imagine, and emotionally accept becomes the mold for your reality. And in this season, you have begun to agree with things you used to doubt. You have dared to believe that you are worthy. You have dared to imagine greater. You have dared to say yes, in your spirit, when everything in the world around you screamed no. That yes has power. That yes is your covenant with destiny, and now the moment has come where heaven answers back. The unseen realm does not reward casual wishing. It responds to inner certainty, and your certainty has matured. Not perfection, not performance, but certainty. That inner knowing that says, I don't know how, but I know it's done. That stubborn peace that refuses to beg, chase, or panic. That unshakable conviction that refuses to be discouraged by delay. That is what fate recognizes, that is what destiny bows to. June 16th is not just the result of time passing, it is the moment your inward alignment pulls the external manifestation into place. This is how divine law operates. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are willing to become one with. And when you become one with the vision, when you no longer see it as something far away, but something already yours, then time becomes your servant, not your master. God has not forgotten you. He was waiting for you to forget the false identities the world forced on you. You had to forget the lies, I'm not enough, maybe it's not for me, I'll always struggle, nothing ever works out for me. All of these were subconscious agreements, and they had to be broken. You had to go through a season of internal warfare, not against demons outside you, but doubts within you. You had to pull down strongholds, not in the atmosphere, but in your thoughts. And you did. You stood in the fire and didn't bow. You lost things and still believed. You were overlooked and still persisted. You walked through hell and came out not bitter but better. That's the strength that forged your new agreement. And now heaven responds. June 16th is not a gift randomly handed to you. It's a spiritual receipt for what you already paid for with faith, endurance, and identity shifts. The suffering was not the payment. Your choice to believe anyway was. When you said yes to your calling, even when you didn't feel qualified, when you said, I believe, even when the evidence mocked you, when you said, I receive, even with empty hands, Those moments were the true currency of the Spirit. And now the transaction is complete. The manifestation must follow, but it won't come like you expect. It will surprise you, not in what it is, but in how effortlessly it flows. You are used to struggle. You are used to pressing and pushing, but this next chapter will not be accessed by striving. It will come through surrender, surrender to who you have become, surrender to what has already been declared over your life. You don't need to beg anymore. You need to align. You don't need to pray in panic. You need to walk in posture. You don't need to convince the heavens. You simply need to live from the finished work. That is the truth of faith. It is not wishing for the future. It is living from the end, seeing it done, feeling it done, moving like it's done. That is the vibration of fulfillment, and it is on that frequency that June 16th finds you. Don't miss the moment by trying to rehearse old doubts. Don't ruin the divine timing by returning to mental patterns that no longer serve you. You are not who you were, and you must not think like who you were. The agreement has shifted, and because it has, everything around you will start shifting too. People will treat you differently. Opportunities will begin to seek you. Provision will find you with ease. Why? Because your inner world now radiates a signal that says, I am ready. That signal is spiritual, but it is also magnetic. You no longer need to hunt down your purpose. It will begin to unfold before you. The vision you once feared would never happen will suddenly accelerate. The doors you once thought were locked will now open without effort, and you'll realize it was never the doors that were locked. It was the version of you that couldn't walk through them that had to die. Now that version is gone. You are reborn, recentered, realigned, and this new identity, this God-aligned self, is the one who was always meant to carry the mantle. You've said yes, you've agreed, and now heaven seals the covenant. This is why June 16th is sacred. Not because it changes you, but because it reflects the you who has already changed. You are no longer a prisoner to doubt. You are no longer a hostage to fear. You are no longer bound to cycles that kept you small. The inner agreement has been signed in stillness, confirmed in silence, and witnessed by heaven. Now the visible world will begin to echo that agreement. Don't look for signs. You are the sign. Don't chase confirmation. You are the confirmation. Everything is aligning because you have finally aligned. This is the moment where fate confirms what faith has long known. This is the moment where heaven says, yes, this one is ready. And when heaven agrees, no force on earth can stop what comes next. When the invisible becomes unavoidable, the chosen one's journey is always one of quiet evolution before loud transformation. And June 16th is the day when what was hidden becomes undeniable. When the invisible reality you carried in your spirit becomes so tangible that even your enemies will have no choice but to acknowledge it. There is a shift occurring not just in your circumstances, but in the frequency of your being. You have spent months, maybe years, walking through the shadows with nothing to validate your belief but an inner knowing, a whisper from the divine that told you to keep going, to keep believing, to keep seeing even when nothing around you looked like the promise. And now the moment has arrived where what once lived only in your imagination will stand before you as fact. But this manifestation isn't magic. It is the result of spiritual law. You have walked by faith, not sight, and the very act of sustaining belief in the unseen has forced the scene to rearrange. June 16th is not a coincidence. It is a consequence, a divine result. A moment when the spiritual seed finally pushes through the soil of time. The world may call it a breakthrough, but you know better. It is a revelation, a revealing of what already was, a pulling back of the curtain to expose what was forming all along beneath the surface. You were never being ignored by God, you were being developed. And now that the inner structure has been established, the outer experience must follow. You will not have to explain this shift. It will explain itself. The people who once questioned your faith will now be silenced by the evidence. Those who dismissed you when all you had was a vision will now watch as that vision becomes unavoidable. You will no longer need to argue, strive, or prove. The fruit will speak for itself. You see, this is what it means for the invisible to become unavoidable. It means the dream you carried, the identity you embodied in silence, the assumptions you persisted in despite the contradictions, all rise to the surface and demand to be seen. And it's not about ego, it's not about proving your worth, it's about fulfilling what was written in your spirit before time began. There are things God planted in you that are tied to the liberation of others, and now is the time for them to be released through you. June 16th is not just about you being blessed, it's about you becoming the blessing. You are stepping into alignment with your assignment, and that alignment shifts everything around you. Your presence will carry new weight. Your words will strike with more power. Your spirit will be sensed before you speak. Because when a person has lived long enough in the unseen realm, they carry the residue of divine truth wherever they go. That is who you are becoming, and because of this, your environment must adjust. People will start treating you differently, not because they suddenly respect you, but because your energy now demands it. You no longer walk as someone who hopes. You walk as someone who knows, and that knowing is a spiritual force. It creates movement, it releases favor, it draws provision. You are not stepping into favor, you are activating it from within. The favor was always present. It was waiting for you to grow into the version of yourself that could carry it without compromise. That's what the silence was about. That's what the hidden season was for. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. Had the doors opened too soon, they would have crushed the unready version of you. But now you're not just ready. You're ripe in wisdom, ripe in discernment, ripe in character, ripe in spiritual understanding. You no longer fear delays because you understand that time works for the mature. You no longer panic in uncertainty because you know the source of your certainty lies within. You no longer crave validation because you walk with the approval of heaven. This is the mindset that precedes manifestation. And now, manifestation is inevitable, not because of what you do, but because of who you have become. June 16th is not your reward, it is your reflection, a mirror held up by the universe showing you the form you've taken through faith. You will look at what unfolds and realize it was never far, it was never denied. It was simply being summoned by the consistency of your belief, and now you've crossed the threshold. The version of you that doubted is no longer here. The version of you that tolerated less has dissolved. In its place stands someone who cannot be unseen, someone who cannot be ignored. The invisible has become too loud to overlook. It is not arrogance, it is spiritual accuracy. You are walking in prophecy fulfilled. The things you journaled, the things you visualized, the prayers you whispered when no one was around, they are all converging into this moment. June 16th is where your reality catches up with your revelation. And when it happens, don't apologize, don't minimize your glow, don't play small to make others comfortable with your elevation. You paid for this with perseverance, you earned this through endurance. But most importantly, you became this, and now that you are this, the world has no choice but to reflect it. From this day forward, nothing will look the same, not because the world changed, but because you did. And when you change, the world responds accordingly. This is your moment. The invisible has spoken. Now it will be seen. The day the old timeline dies and the true you rises, there comes a point in every chosen one's journey when time itself bows to the identity that has been forged in silence. And June 16th will be that point for you. Not just a date, but a death, a burial of the old timeline, a final breath for the you that settled, doubted, feared, and questioned. The timeline you were once trapped in, the one filled with cycles of delay, patterns of scarcity, self-sabotage, and emotional exhaustion, will no longer exist in your reality. It won't just fade, it will die. Because you have outgrown it, you have lived long enough inside the echoes of who others told you to be. You have repeated lessons, suffered losses, and walked in circles, not because God forgot you, but because you were still carrying outdated agreements, inherited beliefs, and emotional weights that couldn't go with you into your future. But now the inner shift has become irreversible. Something deep within you has said, no more shrinking, no more repeating, no more surviving when you were born to reign, and that inner declaration has activated a divine separation. You are being pulled out of old alignments, not by force, but by vibration. What no longer matches your frequency is falling away. People who once fit into your world now feel foreign. Habits that once soothed you now repel you. Environments that once felt safe now feel suffocating. This discomfort is not punishment, it's prophecy in motion. Your soul is rejecting the old because it has been recalibrated for the new, and June 16th will not wait for your permission to begin. It will break the illusion wide open and usher you into the reality your higher self has always known you were destined for. This is not a gentle shift, it is a spiritual announcement, a divine interruption. Heaven has observed your alignment, your persistence, your transformation, and now it responds with movement. You are no longer available for what once broke you. You are no longer attracted to what once distracted you. You are no longer seduced by the temporary, because you are rooted in the eternal. This is the difference. The false self, the one that questioned everything and begged for crumbs, is gone. What remains is the true self, bold, unshaken, faithful, and magnetic. This is the version of you that your past could never tolerate, and your future refuses to function without. The moment this version emerged from within you, the timeline had to bend. What used to take years will now take weeks. What once seemed impossible will suddenly become obvious, not because your surroundings changed, but because your spirit took dominion. You are now commanding reality, not by force, but by identity, and identity is law in the spirit realm. As you think in your heart, so are you. So what happens when your thoughts no longer agree with limitation, when your beliefs no longer support delay, when your self-concept refuses to repeat suffering as a lifestyle? Time has no choice but to obey. That's what June 16th signifies. The moment time catches up with truth, the truth about who you are, the truth about what you carry, the truth about the power of your inner world. You didn't get here through ease. You were broken, crushed, emptied, and tested. But now the wilderness has done its work. It stripped the noise. It silenced the impostor. It purified your intentions. It killed off every false timeline that was trying to delay your destiny. And now there is no room for the old to coexist with the new. That is why things feel like they're collapsing. That is why people are falling away. That is why doors you used to knock on now stay shut, not because you're being punished, but because that timeline has expired. The expiration was spiritual before it became visible. It's why your spirit now resists conversations that drain you. It's why you can no longer pretend to be who you were, because the illusion of almost ready has finally shattered, and what's left is the revelation. You were ready all along. The only thing missing was your agreement. But now your entire being has said yes, yes to the call, yes to the mission, yes to the abundance, the power, the grace, the glory. And when a chosen one says yes, heaven rearranges the calendar, delays are reversed. Blockages are removed, divine appointments are accelerated. What was meant to happen 5 years from now comes rushing into the present, not because God changed his mind, but because you finally matched the frequency. And this is the truth the old timeline can't survive. It was built on your former mindset. It thrived on your indecision, your insecurity, your false identity. But now that all of that has been burned in the fire of transformation, the foundation of delay can no longer stand. You are walking out of one timeline and into another, not in theory but in reality. You'll know it because of how rapidly things begin to shift. You'll feel the tension between what was and what is. You'll sense the silence of things that used to distract you, and the loudness of opportunities that were always waiting for you to rise. You'll begin to see how the world treats you differently, not because the world changed, but because your inner world is now reflecting truth so boldly that everything around you must realign. You are the timeline now. Your energy is the instruction, your presence is the declaration. From June 16th onward, nothing can return to what it was, not because you're running from the past, but because the past can no longer survive the version of you that was born through it. This is your crossover, your exodus, the day the old dies and the new rises, and as it rises, don't mourn what you lost. Rejoice in what finally makes sense. It was never random, the pain, the waiting, the isolation. It was all training. Not for survival, but for sovereignty. You were not made to fit in, to blend in, to shrink. You were called to lead, to create, to govern your reality from the inside out. And now, finally, the world will see what heaven has always known. The true you has risen, the old timeline has died, and you chosen one will never walk the same path again. The fulfillment season has arrived. Move like it's done. This is no longer the season for waiting, doubting, or wondering. Chosen one, the fulfillment season has arrived, and the only instruction now is, move like it's done. You've been through the trials. You've sat in the wilderness. You've heard the whisper of the divine in your darkest nights, and still you stood, still you believed, still you dreamed when there was no evidence to back up your vision, but now the waiting has ended. The door is open, the promise is real, the manifestation is already in motion, and the only thing that can delay it now is if you delay your posture. You must become the version of yourself who moves like the prophecy has already manifested. You must live as if the answer has already come, because it has. The answer is not on its way. It's been waiting for your belief to mature into embodiment. You see, the universe doesn't respond to begging. It doesn't move because you cry or complain or stress. It moves when you align, and alignment means you walk, talk, breathe, and behave like what you prayed for is already yours. That is the frequency of fulfillment. And that is the frequency you now carry. This isn't delusion, this is divine truth. For years you've looked for signs, confirmations, and open doors, but what you didn't realize is that the door is activated by your movement. The action of faith, taken with no guarantee but a knowing in your spirit, is what makes the invisible visible. It's not about striving, it's not about hustle, it's about flowing in your authority. When you know it's done, your posture changes. You stop explaining yourself, you stop waiting for permission, you stop auditioning for love, opportunity, or validation. You simply show up in your fullness. You walk into the room as the answer, not the applicant. You make decisions with finality, not fear. You move with the grace of one who knows that heaven has already stamped their name on the assignment. And this is who you now are. The version of you that hesitated is gone. The version of you that begged God for a sign has evolved into someone who is the sign. And now, as June 16th seals this transition, the energy around you shifts to match the fulfillment within you. You'll notice how things begin to accelerate, how doors begin to swing open without force, how people begin to respond to you differently, not because anything suddenly changed, but because you're no longer waiting to be chosen. You know you are chosen, and that knowing makes you magnetic. It makes you unstoppable. It makes you untouchable by fear, by manipulation, by distraction. You are no longer asking for access. You are the access. You carry the breakthrough in your presence. You radiate fulfillment in your mindset. You are no longer waiting for one day. You are the day. That's the power of moving like it's done. The world tries to teach you to chase. But you've learned that what is truly yours cannot be chased. It must be claimed, claimed in spirit, claimed in posture, claimed in silence, and once claimed, the physical realm cannot help but obey. So now, the only assignment left is to live like it. Speak like the healed, think like the free, give like the blessed, show up like the chosen, make decisions like the visionary who already won. That energy creates ripples. It pulls people, places, resources, and revelations into your path. And none of it is forced, none of it is performance. It's the natural byproduct of spiritual fulfillment. You have already shifted. Now you must stay shifted. Don't let temporary appearances distract you. The storm may rage, but the storm is irrelevant when the outcome is secured. You are not reacting to circumstances anymore. You are responding from revelation. That means if something seems delayed, you don't panic. You praise. If something looks uncertain, you don't shrink. You stand because your faith isn't in the facts, it's in the truth, and the truth is it's already done. You are not becoming, you have become. You are not hoping, you are receiving. You are not searching, you are attracting, because when your inner world finally aligns, the outer world becomes a mirror. And now that you've aligned with your calling, your power, your identity, the mirror will reflect the promise. That's why you don't chase anymore. You've realized that everything comes to the one who knows who they are. You are not here to impress, prove, or compete. You are here to reveal the glory you carry. Reveal the anointing you were born with. Reveal the authority that was always yours, even before you knew your name. That's what this season is about, revelation, not pursuit. And June 16th is your launch. the signal to heaven and earth that your internal fulfillment has now been authorized to manifest externally. So walk in rooms with your head high. Don't downplay your vision. Don't apologize for your clarity. Don't water down your fire. You paid for this with pain. You earned this with consistency, and now that it's here, you must own it with boldness, because fulfillment doesn't come to the hesitant, it comes to the certain. The surrendered, the aligned, and that's who you are now. So wake up each day and move like it's done. Make plans like you've already won. Speak declarations that assume it's already yours. Thank God in advance like it's already arrived. Because it has, not in the distant future, but in the now, in the unseen, in the realm of truth. And it's only a matter of divine timing before everything you carry inwardly bursts into your visible world. But don't wait to celebrate until you see it. Celebrate because you know it. Praise because it's already yours. And live because you are no longer bound to what was. You are established in what is. This is your fulfillment season. The evidence is inevitable. The shift is irreversible. The timeline has been secured. Now, chosen one, move like it's done.